Hello everybody, I'm Jamie Trull, your favorite CPA and profit strategist, and we're going to be continuing to talk about S Corps today. I think this is going to be my last video on S corporations in this series, unless I get an idea. If there's anything else you want me to cover, please mention it down below in the comments. But over the last few weeks, we've been talking about S corporations, specifically for those who are thinking about becoming an S corporation, or for those of you who already are an S corporation and want to make sure that you're doing everything correctly. We have lots and lots of videos. I have a whole playlist that is for you, so make sure to go binge watch that now. Now, today we're going to be talking about something important. This video specifically is to those of you who already are S corporations and therefore need to file an 1120S. So when you become an S Corp, that's one of the new things that you have. One of the new compliance things you have to make sure that you're paying attention to is this additional tax return. When you were just an LLC or sole proprietor, you just had an extra schedule that went into your personal tax return, but lucky you, now as someone who is elected to be taxed as an S Corp, you have a corporate return and you have a personal return. And that corporate return is your 1120S, and that is due on March 15th. Why are we talking about that right now? Well, the day this video is coming out is March 14th. So I imagine that if you're watching this right when it comes out, you're probably thinking about this pending looming deadline and what you're going to do about it, and maybe panicking just a little bit. And that's okay. I totally get it. I just did my own extension for my S corporation return just last week, so I'm there with you. And I did it not because I want to give myself a full 6 months, although filing an extension does give you a full 6 months. It gives you until September 15th to be able to file your 1120S. But I did it just because I wanted a couple extra weeks. I actually like to do my S corporation return right before my personal taxes. I'm the only share owner, so nobody's going to be barking up my tree to get their K1 schedules or anything like that to do their own taxes. So I kind of like to do them around the same time. So that may be you as well. And I would recommend going ahead and filing a free extension. I'm going to do a full walkthrough of exactly how to get an extension for free without having to go through an accountant. This is a super easy process. I'm going to walk you through screen by screen here at the end. But first I want to talk about why it matters. Why do we need to do an extension? What happens if we don't, right? What happens if we just forget and we don't file our 1120S? How much are we going to have to pay? And I think it's important to talk about the fact that the way that it works is an 1120S is going to be your corporate return and no taxes are due at that point. Your S Corp is a pass-through entity, just like your LLC or your sole proprietor, which means that you pay all of those taxes on your personal return. And your S corporation return is going to help you generate your K1, which is kind of like getting a W-2 from a company, right? It's going to tell you how much you need to claim of your S Corp profits on your personal return. So that's when you're actually going to have to pay those taxes. So you might be thinking, well, if I don't owe any taxes, what's the big deal if I don't file? And I will tell you, while you won't get failure to pay penalties for not filing your 1120S since no taxes are due, you will get failure to file. So if you don't file your 1120S on time, the current failure to pay penalty is $220 per share owner per month. So if you have multiple different S Corp owners, then you're going to multiply by the number that you have. But ultimately it's 220 times the number of share owners you have times the number of months outstanding. And it goes up to a maximum of 12 months. So you can see how that can get pretty expensive over time. Even if you're the only share owner, we're talking north of $2,000 just for not filing if you wait the full 12 months or more. So this is why it makes sense to just go ahead and file a free extension, and therefore you're not going to start racking up these failure to file penalties, and it gives you a little bit more breathing room to figure out what your plan is, maybe to find an accountant who's going to help you, because I do recommend having an actual accountant to file your S Corp taxes, but you can do the election on your own to extend that filing for free. So let's jump on in to that. I'm going to walk you through screen by screen. There are multiple different ways to elect this. It's Form 7004 that you're going to be filing. Now you can go ahead and download the form off the IRS website and do it all yourself. That's totally fine. But for most of us, e-filing is probably the way to go. That way I don't have to go looking for a stamp somewhere. So I typically use a software to do this. For this process, I use TaxAct. Act. Not necessarily because it's the best, I don't know. It's just the one that I use and it's super duper easy. So if you want an easy way to file this extension for free, jamietrull.com/TaxAct. And that's the screens that we're going to be walking through here. And again, totally free. I like free. Free is my favorite cost. I figure it probably is for you as well. There are probably other places that you can do this for free as well. If you want to go check with your preferred software, if you use one already, then you can go check out and see if they offer a free extension filing. But what we're going to walk through here is TaxAct, because that is what I use. So you're going to start filing your extension by going to jamietrull.com/TaxAct. And that's going to take you to a screen that is specifically for 1120S filings. Now, it will have a cost here depending on what the cost is at the time, but don't worry, when you're doing your extension, you won't have to pay anything. So you can just press start for free. Now, this will take you to a screen to sign in. Of course, if you have never used TaxAct before, you're going to want to create a new account. And once you have created your account, you're going to end up on a screen that looks something like this. And what you want to verify to make sure you're in the right place is that up in the left-hand corner, it should say the correct tax year, and it should say 1120S, because this is our S Corp return that we are extending, not our personal return. Now, you can go through this and you can get started if you want to, but I actually recommend just going straight to the filing tab over here on the left. And when you click that, you're going to see an option to file extension. And then throughout this, it is going to ask you some questions about your extension. And you're going to say, yes, I want to file form 7004. That's the form for the extension of the 1120S. And it's going to give you an extra 6 months. That doesn't mean you need to use the entire 6 months. Sometimes I just extend to give myself a couple of extra weeks, and then I will do my personal return at the exact same time that I'm doing my 1120S. And so we're going to say yes here. And of course, make sure to read through all of these screens as we go through them. You're going to put your name. We'll just put testing 1, 2, 3 in here for now. And you're going to put in all of your specific information for your business. So this is where you are registered to, what your mailing address is for your LLC. And then of course you're going to want to make sure you're putting the right federal ID number. This is your S Corp EIN, the EIN that you use for your S Corporation. Now, typically the answer here is going to be for the full calendar year if you run on a calendar year basis, which most businesses do, meaning that your year end is December 31st. And then you're going to enter in today's date. And typically the answer to this is probably going to be no, but read through some of these screens and see if any of this applies to you. But I'm going to click through these pretty quickly because most of these are not going to be things that would apply. Now, this is a screen that tends to trip people up a little bit because it's a little bit vague with what it's talking about. But one thing to remember that with S Corp taxes is that when you file your S Corp tax return, it is fully passed through, meaning you're not actually paying any taxes at the S Corp level. All of the taxes that you pay for your S Corporation are going to come through at the individual level, which will happen when you file your individual tax return. So typically you're not going to actually have anything to put in here. I made the mistake when I first did this. I started putting in my withholdings and I started putting in all of my estimated tax payments that I had made. And then I realized that I didn't make those on behalf of my business. I actually made those on behalf of me personally. So you're going to be able to usually just click through here. And similarly, the amount you're paying is probably going to be zero. Again, taxes are generally not going to be due at the time that you are filing this extension. Taxes are due with your individual income tax return. So now that's the end. That's all you have to do. And you're going to want to print it, of course, first to make sure you've saved a copy of this extension. And then you can go to e-file. Now, there are going to be some steps here to acknowledge your e-filing. I'm not going to go all the way through these because of the fact that I don't want to actually file this. This is a testing filing, and so I'm not going to go through these steps, but just follow the steps to get to the point where you e-file. It should not cost you anything to go through and actually e-file this extension. And then when you get to the end, you should essentially have a screen here that will show you that you've filed for an extension. It will show you a price. Again, this price that it's going to be showing you is when you actually go to file the actual tax return for your S corporation. If you use TaxAct, that's the price that you would pay. It probably makes sense to have an accountant do this for you unless you're super comfortable doing this yourself. I don't necessarily recommend using a software without accountant's help, but it is an option if you wanted to go that route, and you can open your return here and check it out. So I hope you found that walkthrough helpful. Now remember, this only extends your 1120S, not your personal return. And if you do plan to be filing later in the year and taking advantage of that tax extension for your 1120S, you're probably also going to want to go ahead and extend your personal 1040 as well. Now, you can do that through TaxAct for free as well. It's super easy, except for the fact that you don't get an extension on the amount of time to pay. So remember, your personal tax return, especially if you believe that you're going to have to pay money, right? If you have not withheld enough or paid in enough over the year and you are gonna owe, then you might want to try to estimate how much you're going to owe so that you can avoid those failure to pay penalties, because that can still rack up. So that's just an important reminder. You may want to go ahead and do that extension at the exact same time, but you are going to have to estimate the amount that you might have to pay so that you don't run into those extra penalties. Now, if you have more questions, more things that you want to know about S corporations, let me know down below. I'm kind of on an S Corp kick right now. Like I said, there's lots of videos. Go check those out. Check out the entire playlist that we've done so far. We've done videos on things like how to set your reasonable compensation, and that's something you're probably going to be thinking about for this year. We do think the IRS is going to be really cracking down on reasonable compensation in the near future, so that's something you want to really understand. And check out our S Corp success checklist as well. That's going to help walk you through various different resources to help make sure that you are doing everything that you're supposed to do to stay compliant as an S corporation, totally free. And I will see you next time.